Hello, everybody. Welcome to Outlawed Thoughts, episode 66. I think we're at now. Watch me
Ooh,
get that wrong.
that's satanic, man. That's not good.
Yeah, I know. We're like one away from like the triple there.
You missed having me on 69. It's a big miss.
Oh, that is true. I'm gonna have to find some people to do for episode 69 now that you put that in my head.
Find people to do. Well, this is
Well,
outlawed
maybe not
thoughts,
on
right?
camera.
We're all the busted prostitutes.
Yes. Well, I wanted to kind of have you on. I know you're running in 2024, so I figured we'd talk a bit about that, which I think is a
I'm
fun
running
topic.
physically.
Running, running, yeah. Maybe light jogging in 2024.
That's right. I'm walking for president. I, I'm
uh,
rolling more so,
rolling,
like retards tend to do.
rolling into the presidency 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been interesting watching sort of this 2024 field form. And so I wanted to talk about, we'll probably talk about kind of the libertarian side of it, but we'll also talk about just 2024 in general, because I think it's funny, the world we are in.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody just told me that my mic is a little bit quiet. Give me one moment. I'll turn it up. I don't know why it keeps doing this to me.
Just turn up your volume, bitches.
I think I think that might have turned me up there,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah. I think you're a little louder. Yeah.
And I'll turn off the, because I think that kind of screws with it too.
All right.
But hopefully
That's
that's
actually
better.
better. Yeah, there's less like fuzz in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been interesting going over this 2024 thing. We saw RFK announced in the Democratic side of things. So you've got him and Biden basically dominating the Democrat field there. But I think most people, and I'll get your take on this, kind of view him as a candidate that can't ever really get the nomination. I don't think he's going to get the Democratic nomination. That's just been my take through the whole thing. I think it's sort of, he plays a role in conning a lot of people and going, oh, well, maybe we can vote left this year because we've got this RFK guy. And then he's not going to get the nomination. And they're sort of hoping that enough people stick with Biden after that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree that there's no way that RFK is going to get the nomination. The establishment will not let it happen. He says way too many no things for them to allow it, of course, especially on the vaccine topic, notably, and numerous other things when talking about JFK and also RFK Sr., his father, and how he basically just openly says the CIA assassinated them, and you can't say that either, even though I think some of that wound up kind of being like either declassified or like let out in the public. I don't want to look at him as a con though, because I mean, some people are going to
No.
believe that he can win. I mean, that's just always going to be the case when somebody's running for the Democratic Party. People are going to think that he can win, but I want to look at it from the more like positive side of things. Like, it is good that we have a
Oh,
candidate like him that is out there, because it will, at the very least, I think, shift the Overton window, and it might even allow for some of the anti-war left to come back, because I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of the stuff that he actually isn't bad on is a lot of the foreign policy stuff, except for Israel, which he's terrible on, but everybody's
he's
terrible on that. But like Ukraine and some of the other things, it seems like he's significantly better on that, to the point where, it might wind up being okay again to be anti-war and on the
right.
left, where Trump kind of did that for the Republican side back in 2016. Or actually,
Yeah,
even before that, I guess Obama kind of started, like,
I
allowing
think
for that to be the
Obama
case.
pushed people into that position because with Obama, you were like, well, how do I be a anti-war Democrat while also supporting Barack Obama? It's
Right.
sort of a
Yeah,
sort of sticks you between a rock and a black place.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, a black gay guy. Yeah, Obama, he kind of destroyed the anti-war left, because he started so many wars, and he was the progressive hero basically, and everybody had to support him. And in turn, also kind of made it so that the anti-war right could rise.
Which I suppose was a double-edged sword. I think it really screwed the left long term, because now it's like you're saying, they have to reintroduce themselves to the anti-war side of things, and I do think
Yeah.
RFK plays a role in that, because I do think he's good on the Ukraine stuff and past wars specifically, which I think is almost more important in a way. That sounds weird, but because you have this sort of massive disagreement between parties about the history of these conflicts regardless, so having somebody in there saying no, this wasn't good regardless, is probably good thing. I think it
Yeah.
I think it does serve to give people some hope on the left, which also is probably not a bad thing,
Yeah.
that causes to do some good long term.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily know if false hope is good, but maybe if it's kind of like a white pilling
Yeah,
thing, like I think it gives hope in that like we might be able to see like more again, it's like shifting the Overton window. I mean, we might be able to see more like candidates take stances like this on the Democratic side of
absolutely.
things,
Yeah.
which we have not seen for quite a while now.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
Well, except for Tulsi Gabbard, I guess, kind of made
Yeah.
a little bit of noise in the last cycle, but yeah,
Yeah. It always seems to be too that the politicians who do get any kind of credit on the left with anti-war stuff, at least recently, have all been the same people who are horrible on the Israel topic, which is kind of
yeah. It,
eyebrow raising, but is what it is.
it's we know who has the most amount of power, man. It's why
Oh, did you
literally
see that clip of DeSantis?
no,
Basically,
which one?
just
Oh
he
yeah,
was
actually I
clipped.
did. Yeah, I did.
Basically just saying, nah, we're gonna go after all these tiny countries that have anti-Semitism. I'm like,
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ!
I saw that. It's crazy. Like I don't even know what he's talking
If
about.
you
Like
didn't think Yemen was being fucked now, just wait. like,
yeah, like I didn't know if he
like,
was just talking about it. We're just gonna like continue to like bomb Palestine. I'm like, well, that's already happening. So I don't know.
I don't know.
DeSantis is just so bad on foreign policy. Like I would want him to just stay in Florida, just stay
Yeah.
where he can actually like do some good as governor somewhere. Because
Well, and
yeah,
there's a lot of Floridians who I've talked to about this, as far as the whole story goes. But it's like DeSantis as the governor of Florida is, to me, the best governor they've had in a long time. But
yeah,
he isn't the pinnacle of what you should be trying for. This is the
no,
guy who's had the opportunity to legalize weed and hasn't taken it. He's had the opportunity to open up the Second Amendment and actually do it the way it's supposed to be done, allowing people to open carry, and he didn't. So
right,
there's things that he's done that I'm like, I don't know, is this guy really that good if you move him into the presidency? If we're looking at him from an actual, like, his actual standings as a politician are not, they're pretty cookie cutter wino conservatives. They're not these not
yeah.
these deep new Republican views. They're pretty old school.
Right.
Uh
And if yeah, he's not like one of these like new Republican people who are in there like
no. Even though
Marjorie
you'd
Taylor
think he would be
Greene or
because of
somebody
his
like that.
age, you'd think he'd be
Right.
trying to break into that audience and get those like 20 to 25-year-old voters. But I still think most of them in the Republican field are going to go for Trump now,
Yeah.
even because of these charges. Like, that's something
Yeah.
that gets thrown in, is like, I don't know. I think young people look at him being indicted and all this shit and go, yeah, it's kind of funny to vote for the guy that's getting, like, might be in a cell. like,
Yeah.
I think that is something that you're going to find a lot of more younger people just casting the ballot just to cast the
Yeah.
ballot.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
people have seen what's going on. Like enough people see like the establishment is doing whatever they can. They're throwing everything they can at Trump just to try to take him down. So I think enough people know like what they are throwing at him is bullshit. Like there are things that he did as president that you could actually say, yeah, these things are illegal wars and shit like that. But obviously, that precedent can't get set because that would apply to all of his predecessors as well. So they're trying to take him down by throwing what I don't even know what they're on now, some January 6th related shit. Like
Yeah, it's all
people
Jan
see through that.
6 and arguing that he tried to finagle the 2020 election, which is
Yeah,
sort of like saying the quiet part out loud, in my opinion, is sort of hilarious. It's like,
right.
I think I heard Rekieta Law, who's a lawyer, mention this,
Yeah,
and I
Nick
think he's
Rekieta,
right
yeah,
on this.
he's pretty good.
Yeah, which is that, you don't typically, politicians don't start charging other politicians because it opens up Pandora's box and everybody starts pointing at each other like that one Spider-Man meme. And
Yeah.
that's what we're going to end up with here. I think you're going to have this hunt against Trump, trying to charge him and charging him, indicting him for
Yeah.
things that every politician has done. And then if the guy wins presidency, which is a pretty good odds if you break down polls, it's like you understand that you're opening your entire party up to have the same treatment for the next 4 years and for nobody to feel bad about it. Like, nobody on the right is going to feel bad about it. At least nobody who supports Trump. There's going to be your kind of Mitch McConnells of the world and stuff who are always going to be cucks. But if he does win the presidency, I feel like there's going to be a lot of vindictive people, not even in the federal level, but just on the state level, that'll feel like they now have the power to go, okay, we're going to open an investigation into this DA. We're going to start, shuffling these people around. And that starts to get real ugly for both parties, so that's,
Yeah.
but I think that's good for everybody. See, I think if this thing gets lit on fire, hypothetically, this idea of like the government this system that they have in place, it's fragile, more fragile than it's ever been, in my opinion, right now. And so another 4 years of Trump would just disintegrate the left. It would break their brains. This would send them catatonic.
Yeah.
So there's a degree of me that goes, I'd really like to see this happen,
Yeah,
just to
I
watch
want
this
this to
shit
happen,
burn.
yeah.
And so I have gone definitely more down that path recently, being like, I'll support libertarians and stuff, but on the back end of it, I understand that those candidates aren't going to win. And it's likely we're going to end up with Biden versus Trump. And if that happens, I think I'd rather see Trump win to just watch this whole thing collapse, which is what I feel like it would do. At least push it towards that direction.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that, as we saw in 2020, I think the establishment is going to just they're going to pull out all the stuff. I mean, they already are, again, but they're going to do whatever they can to not allow Trump to win. And with mail-in voting and stuff and the shenanigans that they can pull, I think that you're right that it's going to be Trump-Biden again unless Biden dies. But I think that they just won't allow Trump to actually
so
win.
let's entertain
something.
that thought for a second, though.
I want it to happen, though, just because it'll be hilarious.
Yeah, right. Let's say Biden kicks it. During, or he steps down because of health reasons, right?
Right, or there've been some indicators that they might be trying to get him out of there.
Impeach him. Yeah, and that's a possibility. It is. What if that happens, right? Do the Democrats get forced into the position of backing a horrible candidate like Kamala Harris in 2024? Because if they don't choose her, they're going to get flack from the Black Lives Matter supporters and the people who they have pushed into these sort of power positions in the left. Yeah, it seems like they've put themselves in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, they have. I love how hilarious it is because, they did that by making her VP. We have to get this woman of color in there. And she, she's not even black. Technically, I would say she's half street shitter and half clown shit.
Isn't she Indian Jamaican?
Yeah, Indian Jamaican. Yeah, exactly. She's a clown shitter. So she's in there now. So of course she's next in line. So if Biden does die, she will become president. But usually it is the case that the VP is the next, their turn is next to run essentially. But I could see the Democrats doing something because they know how unpopular she is. They would probably be able to make some excuse up because it looks like they're trying to position Gavin Newsom to get into that role and be the next guy. And I don't even know about that either because he's not some charismatic, good-looking dude. He's a relative of Nancy Pelosi, and he is just an obvious snake. I mean, unless I'm misreading the situation, but
I think he is very much so the person being primed to take Biden's spot. And I've said Dick Masterson has been talking about this for 2 years now. How that's sort of the plan, how they're going to prep Gavin Newsom. He moved out of California. He went to all the right parties. He's had all the right donor things go on. He's definitely running behind closed doors. It's just more of a he's waiting for this put me in coach moment. And I do think that's probably likely to happen, but you can't really assume it's going to happen until it happens. It's sort of one of those things, but I
Yeah.
think it very well could, because I think they have been positioning him to sort of take that role.
Yeah.
And I think that what would happen in that case is, right, then Kamala has to say, well, I'm not going to run for president for personal reasons or for life reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
And she has to be the one to let him sort of step in, which is going to be the most it will be the most satisfying thing to watch happen ever.
I don't know. Kamala Harris has already blown like half of California, so if she just blows Gavin Newsom, she might be able to swing it.
That's how she does it. Maybe that is the play, though. You get Gavin Newsom in as the president, you just suck his dick all the time as the VP, and then you run in in the next cycle, 2032
That's
or 2028.
Pretty much.
But, I guess we have a question from JC, and we'll run into sort of this stuff talking about your 2024 run.
What's up, JC?
What made Toad want to run in 2024?
Because I'm a fucking fat ass. Basically what happened was I was at PorkFest this year, and at this point the field was just Mike Termott, Lars Mapstead, and Chase Oliver. So as I put it, it's a fed, a fat, and a faggot, and you can determine which one of those is which if you
place
want.
Those where you want.
Exactly, you can mix it up. Ben Weir from LP New Hampshire / the head of the emo caucus came up to me because I was like literally looking, because we were right at like the LP National tent, and like I'm looking at Mike Termott and Chase Oliver, and like this is the field right now. And Ben was like, "Do you want to be the emo caucus representative?" Because at that point, I guess he had asked Josh Smith and hadn't gotten a response or whatever yet. And I was like, dude, if like nobody's doing it, like we don't know if Dave Smith's gonna run. I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll just do it. Like we can't allow any of the three that I just mentioned to do it. So, or to actually become the nominee. Like what we set out to do in Reno, even though I'm not a fan of party politics at all. I hate that shit. Even though I was there at Reno, I was buying into the Reno reset idea. Seemed like we had the momentum. Obviously, we did to a large extent. We took over the party, but now we have a situation where we don't have anybody who's actually like a good representative of the Ron Paul revolution at all. I believe that I am one of those guys. I agree with Ron Paul, with Dave Smith on like probably like 90% of things, and maybe more than that. And that was it. And then, Josh entered the fray shortly after that, and he has better numbers than I do, of course. But now we have two guys who, like, if he wins, I would not mind it at all. Like, but we have to stop basically the entire rest of the field from becoming the nominee at this point.
Yeah. At this point, I've said in many group chats, and I'll be going to Florida in late September here to go to their event, Florida Freedom Fest, which is being put on over there. And I'll be talking about this over there quite a bit, I'm sure. But like my opinion at this point is pretty much what you just laid out. My goal is to get anybody else in that nomination position than we currently have. I was one of the first people publicly to call out Mike Termott as a candidate over the fact this guy was a cop. Okay. Now there are some people on the right of the libertarian field who will take issue with what I say on this topic, but Joshua Smith was in the military, right? And I view these things as two different things, and we can break these down sort of from a more my stance on it, personal stance. But people said, well, you're a hypocrite because you're supporting this guy, not him. And I said, well, no, there's a big difference between somebody who served in the military in the past and somebody who was literally a cop just a little bit ago. And that's the situation you have with Mike Termott. This is somebody I'm like, you want the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party to be a fucking police officer. Like, I think you're smoking crack. Like, personally, if that's your opinion, I think you're dumb. I don't think you should have you certainly shouldn't be the one making decisions for everybody. Yeah, well, like if that's your opinion.
Yeah, it's like bad optics for one thing, but I obviously I don't give a shit about optics really. But
right. it's
Well,
a different type of optics.
well, I guess
right. Like I don't care about jokes, but it's this isn't a joke.
Exactly.
This guy was actively daily impeding on people's constitutional rights.
I guess I give a shit about optics if it's that you're putting the wrong message out there. But yeah, Termott was an enforcer for the state, whereas, and I'm not saying that every single cop is definitely bad, although most are.
Most of them are criminals.
That's totally different than if you're just somebody who bought the propaganda, post 9/11 or whatever the case may be, and you got into the military or whatever. Like so many people did that and have completely turned. Like I wasn't in the military, but I was one of the people who bought into the post 9/11 propaganda. I was on the Republican side of things, and then like throughout college I kind of started changing my views on that.
Right. Yeah, I my grandmother worked as the postmaster on the military base here in Alaska, J Bear. And so when 9/11 happened, she was working there and everything. And so from a young age, I was pretty based on 9/11 because she was. So it was, I always had more of a opinion that, hey, this wasn't all it's said to be.
Right. Yeah, and I would say, just back to the other, the JC question. Another reason why I kind of like wanted to get into this and run is because I thought I could have like some fun with it and kind of make it like funny, even though I have serious stances. They're all kind of shaded, and like I'm trying to think of like basically kind of making it like a Tower Gang type of messaging where it's like, what can I do to like make each one of these like platform planks like meme worthy? So if you saw, I don't have a website yet, which I need to do, but I tweeted out like kind of what my primary planks are. And like number one was basically BLPNH, but it was in a serious way. It was like, we're going to like meme kind of the Pete Quinones thing, meme the bad guys until they cry, like meme the politicians, the journalists, all the propagandists, all the people that are pushing the authoritarianism, do that. Then I have like the other stances are the one that's the anti-war plank, which I called Crimea River, because a big part of is getting the U.S. out of NATO and out of Ukraine, so that we are not pushing closer to World War III in that scenario. But it was basically like, I don't give a shit if people are gonna cry over this. Get the fuck out of Ukraine, and again, like don't start wars. Otherwise, don't do anything with the China-Taiwan situation. Get out of all the wars. Bring all the troops home. So that would be that plank. Then I had like another one that was, what else did I even have? I had listening to emo music and this is kind of like a Michael Knowles shout out, his thing that pissed everybody off, where he said we're going to eliminate the transgender population, but which he meant the ideology. So mine is get them to listen to emo music instead of becoming trans, essentially. But wrapped into that is like getting rid of the entire public education system. Don't propagandize children into all this complete bullshit. Get rid of CRT. Don't teach any of that in school. Don't teach transgenderism, queer ideology, all that shit. And yeah, I mean, what else did I even have? I had a couple other. Oh yeah, one of the other ones was make January 6th the national holiday, and wrapped into that is the serious part of it is all the Jan 6ers should be let out of prison, let out of jail, and pardoned, or whatever the case may be. They should not be facing any charges for walking into a building, which is the case with most of them. So, but to piss everybody off, also make it a national holiday and call those people patriots, because they were fighting against essentially the rise in COVID tyranny. That was kind of one of the main things that they were doing.
It's funny, you go back and watch the footage from that whole event, and most of the signs you see and stuff all relate to a mix and match of issues around that time. And it's funny, it's like they act like that was some collective group all about one issue, and it's like no, that definitely wasn't what I was seeing. I did see a lot of feds, but not many of the people they claim to be.
Ray Epps, the one guy who's on camera like literally telling everybody to keep going in and go in is the one guy who's not facing any charges, and everybody knows exactly who he is. That's not sus at all.
who was like on the list of suspects and then removed from the list of suspects. Like it's like, oh, that's weird. Funny how
Yeah.
that happened. Like
Yeah, and then
I
the other one of my planks, just quickly with the because I mentioned the COVID tyranny, is that those people that push that need to be held responsible, and I called that plank "Governors to Gitmo" as a shout out to Jeremy Kaufman and his merch that he has through Top Lobster. I think the Governors to Gitmo shirt. So I unironically take all the COVID governors and Fauci and all the people at the federal level that supported that shit, that promoted that shit, the lockdowners, put them in prison, put them in Gitmo. They should face consequences for this. They should not be able to get away with it.
well, it's sort of this question of like, what is the punishment for defacing Americans' rights? What is the punishment for doing that to that scale? And you have to go,
Yeah.
well, I mean, if you forced people to get a vaccine, you forced people into these positions, regardless of how you did it with coercive nature, as the governor or the person in charge of that state. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you start, how many people live in your state? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
600, 700,000, 6 million, 5 million. Okay,
Yeah.
well, then you're going to get that many charges for a
Yeah,
violation
probably,
of that,
yeah. Eight,
and just,
18 million, I think, in my state, in
yeah.
Massachusetts, and mine is like not one of the top in population. Top in New England, but that's about it. But yeah, we had some of the worst COVID rules in Massachusetts, and it kind of flew under the radar because it's Charlie Baker was governor at the time. He just never even gets talked about really because he's kind of a good-looking, charismatic dude, and it's just kind of like nobody really talks about it. But I was under the gun there. I mean, the COVID shit was obviously the worst rights violation that we've seen in my lifetime. And I was under it personally. Like, I was facing the vaccine mandate at work. And the only reason why it went away was because I was like I think I was the lone person at my company that stood up to it. And
Oh,
I had like religious exemption getting rejected and all this shit. And I guess I'm valuable enough that they didn't like fire me on the spot. And I just kept like pushing it out, prolonging it. I prolonged it for multiple months after I was supposed to get it. And then I don't know if it was the Supreme Court or one of the federal circuit courts knocked down Biden's mandate. And then the mandate at my company went away. And then it was just like, we're not going to talk about this anymore. It never even happened. Come back to the
never.
office. Because I was working remotely that whole time. Basically, I was banned. I was banned from the office. From even before that, I was banned for not wearing a mask in like a gigantic empty building lobby. The building actually deactivated my card and went over my head to like HR and the CEO, and they like called me in. And at that point, they like just outright asked like about my vaccine status, and I'm not playing the game. I'm just not even gonna lie about it. I'm like, no, I haven't gotten it, because at that point we were on the honor system where to like be back in the office you had to be vaccinated or whatever. I'm like, obviously I know this is fucking bullshit. Like, hopefully that like changed some people's minds or whatever. Like I know some people like at this point at least there are some people who like at least secretly like agree with me for the most part. Like, this is like definitely bullshit. Like, I had a coworker like suffer some like pretty serious medical issues, and he's like a healthy young guy otherwise, and even people like at the hospital, like the doctors were like outright saying like, we think this might be related to the vaccine at this point. So at least there are like a decent number of people kind of admitting it at this point.
Yeah, my dad got the first shot, but not the booster, not the second part of it.
Yeah.
And if you asked him now, he'd be like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done it," because he ended up getting COVID anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he got it in the future, it was fine, like it was mild case.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. I got COVID probably 2, 3 times in total, but
Yeah.
the first time I had a cough and it sucked for a few days, and then the times
Yeah.
after that it was nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
I work at a hotel, so I'm like getting
Whoa.
interaction with a lot of people. So there's just no way around not getting something when it goes around. You're just
Yeah.
always going to get it because we have cruise ships that come in. It's like you're
Oh
just
yeah. Yeah.
screwed. Like, but
Yeah, the
it
Alaskan cruises, man. You got people coming from who even knows what. They're bringing all the COVID right to you.
Well, I'm in Seward, so we get a lot of Asians and a lot of
Ah,
like Norwegian cruises. So it's just game over.
you're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like,
Norway, I think, locked down to some extent. It was Sweden that had like the
hmm
least restrictions, I guess, out of the Scandinavian countries. But yeah, I never got the vaccine, and I got COVID. I believe I got it 3 times, and the first time I got it was right in the time where it was like actually like kind of something, if you want to even say that it was
yeah,
that. And it was before like we even really knew that it was that. Like it was February 2020, but at this point we know that it was around as of at least like late summer, early fall 2019. It was
right.
definitely in the US by early 2020. And I had people at that point saying that I was crazy and that it had not been in the US yet. I'm like, yeah, fuck you, because after the fact, after I'd had like I was sick for like a week in February 2020, and it was like I thought it was like a bad cold, but it was bad enough that it was like noticeable. And towards the end of it, I lost my sense of taste and smell for a little while.
Same here. Yeah.
And I actually like I got this like pressure in my ear that actually still hasn't gone away to this day. And I don't know if I'm going to need like tubes in my ears or something to try to get rid of it. I just haven't really dealt with it. But that came from like what I'm pretty sure was COVID, when it was one of the early variants of it. So I had it then. After the fact, I was like, that must have been COVID. Then I got the Pork Fest variant at Pork Fest 2021, which was
The Anthony Samroff variant.
The Anthony Samroff variant. Yeah, I pretty much knew that it must have been COVID because like Pete Q and some of the other people that were there got like decently sick from it, and I was sick for like a couple days after I got home, but it was like really mild, and that was probably like Delta or something. And then I got it again, I think, when it was Omicron, because I was like sick again and had some of the symptoms, but it was like for a very short period of time, like a couple days, very mild. Later, probably over the winter, I think, after that,
I
2021
know
into
that
2022.
I know that I got Delta because I tested for that one, but the first time I got it, which was the worst time, was around. It would have been about a month after you got it, and it was before there was a test thing, so I didn't
Yeah.
test for that one. But I lost my sense of smell. I lost my sense of taste. I had not pressure in my ears, but I had like a weird pressure in the top part of my nose for like months and months. And it went away like just a few months ago. Like I finally
Oh
was like,
yeah.
oh, I just kind of noticed, hey, I don't have that weird pressure up there no more. But yeah, I don't know if it, yeah, the ear thing my brother got, he had like still to this day, if he tries to eat chicken, like any way he's tried to eat chicken, it just tastes like chemicals.
Even if he
And it's
washes it? Oh, well, he must be washing it if it tastes like chemicals. I think he should stop. He should stop washing it. What the hell?
change soap brands.
By brother, do you mean brother?
Brother, my brother.
Yeah.
COVID is the least Anthony is probably cared.
Oh, we know that guy has been around for sure, and I think that Pork Fest, it was kind of hilarious because I think he was like drunk and high on like a whole bunch of different things and sick all at the same time. He was
I'm
passed
pretty
out
sure
on
the
the ground,
story
like
was
outside
that
of the
he
Mises
literally
tent.
passed out
Yeah.
outside the Mises tent.
Oh yeah,
And I'm like,
I was there. Yeah, he was passed out outside of it for like at least like I don't know 12 hours. I want to say, and he missed one of his talks. He was supposed to be giving like some sort of econ 101 talk, or it might have been about the UBI because that's kind of his thing, and he wasn't there at all. So then if you know Sam Archist, he was there, and he just somehow got Anthony's speaking slot somehow.
finagled his way in there.
It wasn't on the main stage of the pavilion, but it was like the secondary stage that's like up in like the office area. I don't know how he swung that, but he took Samaroff's speaking slot up there to talk about econ and UBI or whatever.
Yeah, that's a hell of a well, it's a good pork fest story, I suppose. There's
Yeah.
always a few of those. I had the dab pin at the one event with Dickie. That became the story that I got to tell on podcast.
What was
Because
it at Tom Woods?
Tom Woods 2000,
Yeah.
I brought a dab pin because I'm eternal stoner, and when I went to the event, like I'm just walking around sort of sneakily hitting that thing,
Yeah.
but no one else had anything. And Dickie Walnuts emerged drunk in a
Oh,
Hawaiian
oh,
shirt and Hawaiian shorts and
Dickie
was
had
losing
something,
it.
man. Dickie had like a huge bottle of tequila that he was like passing around. It was,
It's a Jose Cuervo or something,
yeah,
or
yeah.
no, it was something. I think it was Jose Cuervo,
I
but
think it
they
was
were passing
Cuervo, yeah, because
a whole group of them that I was sitting by.
yeah. Yeah, you were sitting like right next to me actually. And
Yeah,
I was sober that night because I didn't want to repeat the threesome jerk off event of
yeah.
the previous night.
Which
So
which
I'd gone
I got to
sober.
I got to see brief interactions of that previous night. So when you guys told that story, I kept seeing these people hanging out all night. Like
Yeah.
around that hotel, the Gaylord, I believe was no, that was a different hotel. It was at
I don't remember the name of the
maybe
hotel. I
I
forget.
can't remember. There's so many fucking stupid resorts.
It might have
around
been
Florida.
Gaylord. I don't know.
The Gaylord's where Yal was at.
Oh,
But
the
I think
the
it was
Homo Hotel. Oh yeah, that's right. Yal was at that. Yeah, I didn't go to that, but I forget what the name of the Tom Woods one was. It was a nice hotel, and
it was a nice place.
we completely defiled it, and I pissed on the floor. So
Yeah, that story is legendary. Let's talk about that a bit. So, Tower Gang,
Damn.
Tower Gang, right? This is your guys' show. It's you, Clint, Reed, Cole, and am I missing somebody?
Jose.
I'm definitely Jose. I'm definitely missing somebody. Okay, so how did you guys all just know each other coincidentally through Twitter, or was
Yeah.
there sort of the origin story was just all through Twitter? That is sort of wild.
It was through Twitter. It was through the Tower Gang. GC, you're in that, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I've been in there for a while. Dickie added me to that. I think
Yeah, it
was who
was
got me in.
back in, I want to say early 2021 was kind of when the towering was actually happening, and I was a little bit late to the party on that, but it kind of like blew up because there was a tower on some like journalist who like really flipped out and started reporting everybody and blocked people and got some people nuked from Twitter or whatever. I wound up because I was in the Twitter liberty circles starting in like 2020. I was already a libertarian. I'd been in that like world at least since like 2016. I had been listening to a bunch of the podcasts and that type of thing and reading a bunch of the literature. In 2020, because there was nothing better to do, I took to Twitter to complain about the lockdowns essentially, and then that's how I got into it. I was in some of the liberty groups. I was, I guess, kind of one of the funnier liberty Twitter personalities by then, and I got into one of the tower groups, the backup group, and we kind of started becoming like the ones who were doing it the most often. And for whatever reason, like some of us just decided like, let's like start a podcast that's kind of in this vein where we're just talking about towers and like Twitter bullshit. Basically, it was going to be like shit posting, but in podcast form. And at that point, it was me, Clint. Clint was actually on episode 1, which is kind of crazy because at that point he had his podcast for like a year and he was like kind of big. This was like early 2021. It was me, him, Cole, who was Fat Dave Smith at the time. So people kind of knew him quite a bit. Jose was in it right away, although he wasn't on the first episode. And we had Nick Ashley back then and another guy, Cap, who was gone after the first episode. And he wound up, because he had access to our passwords, he actually stole our accounts for a brief period of time until we were able to kind of like talk him down from that, that was kind of a crazy thing that we talked about that on whatever the episode was that we had Reed Coverdale and Quincy on early on, one of the single digit episode numbers, I think. But that was kind of the origins of it. And then, Reed kind of got into it like fairly early on, but he's full New Hampshire now, and he has the link, so he can come on the show whenever he wants still, but he hasn't done it for quite a while. So it's kind of the rest of us. And Nick Ashley, of course, stepped down. To me, it seemed like with him, he kind of just like didn't like what he had become, even though he had become like super bass by then. He had that really fun Fakertarians appearance that everybody remembers, where he was like crazy drunk and was
that
just,
was
like,
one of my
absolutely
first
annihilating them. Yeah,
that was one of my first edits on Twitter. was that episode, which I cut up
Yeah.
into clips. That's sort of how I got, I suppose, any followers on Twitter. Was the beginning with me. I would go around to different podcasts I'd watch and cut out clips. And so I did that to Tower Gang
Yeah.
episodes sort of early on. I would try to put together clip things, which I need to do
Yeah.
because there should be more of those out there.
We have a very clippable show.
It's the perfect show for it, by
Yeah.
the way. It was so easy. I would just cut like a 20-minute section into my video editor, and I would just listen for 20 minutes and take markers at every time I heard a quote. I was like, and just cut it out of context.
Yeah. Yeah, and Nick, we call him Nicarus because we think he flew too close to the sun multiple times. I mean, he got banned from Twitter or whatever. I think he just he didn't want to be that like aggressive like shit poster person anymore, even though he was pretty fucking good at it. He was like super based at that point. But yeah, JC says he misses Nick. Nick is doing well. Last I knew, I
still have him on Twitter.
He had a baby at some point, like kind of around the same time that he left Tower Gang. He became a father, which is awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's doing pretty well as far as I know. And we have not mentioned, but Top Lobs is on Tower Gang as well. Let's just
I forgot him.
Let's just not mention.
Forget about guy. Top.
Well, he was doing art for him, and we had him on a couple episodes, and then he just became one of the actual hosts of the show, so he's on the show as well.
And I had become familiar with Top from Joshua Smith's show, so I had already seen his art and stuff. So it was like, and then I got to see him coming on Tower Gang. That was cool. And now he's got his own show, which is cool. I listened to that.
Top show, yeah.
Yeah. Eventually, I got to get on there to talk about Paranormal Alaska stuff.
Yeah, you do.
There's a bucket load of that stuff. That's been sort of my main focus, which I think has turned off a lot of the LP people from just my general approach to things, is I've stopped sort of caring and making tweets and content about national politics and have just focused more on my state. And I think that, Florida is someplace I enjoy too, so I'll probably start focusing a little bit of that on Florida as well, and trying to play both fields. I think there's a lot more hope for state-based politics than there is for national stuff, especially from a libertarian angle.
Yeah.
But on the national scale, I think it is important, if you're going to run people, that they be good people. And so I think that's why it's important to do what you were talking about with your run and with Joshua Smith or anybody else who really fills that role. I know there's a discussion happening, some Twitter space that Dave Smith said he was doing tomorrow with Biblical Anarchy and Jeremy Kaufman. So that'll be interesting to hear that. I imagine Jeremy's going to grill Dave on his 2024 ambitions.
Yeah, and I think Reed is going to be on that too.
Oh, it's going to be on that too. Yeah, that'll be great.
I think, I guess, is Jacob hosting that? I don't even know what it is, but
I think Dave and him are hosting it. Is what it seemed like to me.
But it is kind of Dave. I don't want to say versus LPNH because I don't think it's really a debate, but it's like
kind of feels like that.
Maybe it is. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. There's two sort of stances with the LPNH stuff that I both think get things wrong. Which is, there's the stance that what LPNH is doing is getting views, and so it's good. And then there's this view of like, well, LPNH is getting the wrong kind of views because they're saying things that make people angry, and so that's bad. And I'm like, yeah, but both of those are really simplified versions and get a lot of things wrong. And every time I see one of these tweets, it's like, you're trying to explain this pretty big issue with 280 characters. Like it's just... and at the same time, I think it comes down to me. I've talked on this show multiple times about the fact that regardless of whether you like how LPNH does their messaging, the proof is in the pudding. If I type in right now LPNH into Twitter or into Google search for that matter, I'm going to see hundreds of news stories and different editorials that have been written, sure, negatively, but it doesn't really matter because the people they're trying to get things out to are seeing it. And that's what really matters.
Yeah, I think, like I love it, and I think one of the good things about it is that yeah, like they get all this visibility, but even though of course like some people are not gonna like it, and I think for the most part those people are people that aren't really gonna be like down with
Right.
what we actually want to do anyway. So I think it's pretty much a good thing. And the people that are kind of like I don't know if I want to say normies, but people that are kind of like outside of it, I think they're gonna see like all these big like news sources like CNN and all this shit, and like the red pill people who know like these are sources that we don't trust. They're a bunch of liars. They're gonna see, oh, they're shitting on LPNH. LPNH must be like good. You know what I mean? So I like
Right.
that aspect of it.
Exactly. Let's talk about this for a minute because it was mentioned in the chat.
Yeah.
A self-described anarcho-capitalist won a plurality in Argentina's presidential primary. So this is a story from Reason, but I just picked it because I like the headline. And it really just sort of summarizes it. He with 97% of votes counted. Javier Milei and his La Libertad.
La Libertad Avanza, which I think is probably the like advancement of Liberty Party or something.
Okay, that must.
It says
that
there.
sense.
Yeah, Liberty moves forward is what it means.
Liberty moves forward. Okay. Yeah. Coalition received about 32% of the total vote in the national primary election on Sunday. So he hasn't actually won, but he's slated as the winner because he's getting such a high percentage of the votes and stuff. Like preliminary or something. The way it was described to me was super confusing.
I don't know how their elections work, but to me, it seemed like what it was that they basically like he has essentially won the primary, and then I think that means he's going to go to some general election against I don't know whom else, but I think he's going to be like the representative of. I don't know how it works actually. If it's just that party against another, I don't know. Okay,
here we go. Milei is by no means guaranteed a victory in October's general election. He will come under attack from all sides. He has taken some unpopular stands, such as supporting a free market in body organs. He will be accused of not being prepared for the president because of his alliances. So basically, this is Reason's horseshit, but it's just saying that.
Yeah.
So he's just won that portion of the election and is going forward to run in the actual main election.
I took it as basically like he won like a primary and now he's going to be in the general. Yeah. Which I mean, that is definitely something. I don't know enough to know like how popular he is, like generally, like how good a chance he has to win the general election. I have no idea, but it sounds like he's not like. I don't think he's gonna get like crushed, but I have no idea.
No, and dude's uber based. I started listening to some clips of the guy, and dude's like got some fire in him. The guy gets up there and speaks, and he can like he's getting the crowd into it, and the crowds are huge.
Yeah, and
so if that's any,
he's got the look like he's a member of some like Britpop band or something. It's
dude straight up looks like a member of the Beatles. Wild. Yeah, I don't know who said that on Twitter, but it's true. Oh, you did? Okay. He legit looks like a member of the Beatles. Like, he does.
Yeah. All of it is really crazy. And, like, I'd made some other joke because, like, some of the detractors are, of course, calling him a Nazi and whatever because that's what you do. And I'm like, well, he is a white, like, European-looking dude in Argentina, so who knows, man? You never know. Yeah, with blue eyes, very Aryan-looking man. Even though I think he has his name is Spanish, right? What is his name again? I don't even remember. But like maybe he's descended from the Germans. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not positive. I know.
His name's Javier something. So he has some Spanish name, but
Javier Milei.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, whatever it is.
So, and then the other story I have here, this is, I can kind of talk about this because I wanted to mention it briefly. So, I saw this from Fox News today. Dozens of Chicago area gas stations forced to slash hours over crime surge. So, this story is insane because I actually went to read what this was about. And it's not that they just did this voluntarily. No. City leaders in Hammond, about 25 miles south of Chicago, voted 7-2 Monday in favor of requiring the gas stations to close between midnight and 5 a.m.
Yeah.
The city themselves went, nah, you got to shut that shit down. You're getting robbed too much. Sorry, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, that is absolutely dystopian.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Well, it's
I,
yeah, it's near the south side of Chicago too, man. The south
oh
side
god.
of Chicago. It's where bad Leroy Brown is, man. I don't
Hammond
know.
made
I don't know if Leroy was a Brown or not, but yeah, this it's ridiculous because you would think that at least when you see a headline like this, you're right. You think that it's like these stores are having to voluntarily do it because the crime is so crazy. Like
yeah.
you see this in like the cities where stores are putting more things under lock and key and like probably hours are being cut and shit. And some of it I think was like post COVID issues as well, where people had just like fled the cities and they had fewer people in the workforce because of a bunch of the COVID shit. But yeah, this is crazy. Like the town is actually trying to like make that correction by fiat, essentially.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, this is
it's insane to
insane.
me because you're like, so the answer here isn't to police those gas stations at night or make sure you have those businesses protected, or do what those some gas stations I saw in PA were like, hiring armed security and things like that.
Mhm.
It's like, no, your reaction to this is, nah, we're just gonna force them to shut their businesses down. Like, just close it up.
Yeah, it's another lockdown. That's crazy. And this it's a crime lockdown this time. So it's like you like the lockdowns in the first place actually I think put people in a mental state where it led to more looting and things like that. It led to more crime and now you're going to lock down more. Like this is crazy. It's going to
Yeah,
make people
it's
even
nuts.
crazier. It's a very vicious cycle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I saw this story, which is the uh, everybody's sort of talking about this same topic at this point, which is this Hawaii. Amid the ash of Lahainai, aid and anger are spreading. So we're gonna read through a bit of this, and I'm gonna talk a bit about um, my position on it. A week after Blowtorch wins, Blowtorch,
Yeah.
that's a really weird word to use for that as a
Well, yeah.
descriptor.
Yeah,
A
what does a
week after
blowtorch win?
Blowtorch wins, I have a blowtorch next to me,
Yeah.
right here. Not much
Yeah.
wind's created from this.
No, no, I think it's probably like because Hawaii has a bunch of volcanoes, or maybe it's wildfires. I don't know what's going on there, but
Yeah.
something with winds like blowing the
Yeah, so
fire to like I don't know,
it's
cause it to
kind of
spread.
similar. It's kind of similar to what happens in California, and that's sort of what I'm going to get into,
Okay.
because Alaska has a different way of dealing with these things, and it
Oh, you mean like
pisses me off sometimes. Yeah,
like
it's a lot of it is land clearing,
yeah,
which is
exactly. Yeah.
just not done,
Right.
and the same is true for Hawaii. It's just not
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, that's what I
Uh,
figured. Yeah.
and so after a week of blowtorch winds brought the most horrific disaster in modern Hawaiian history, members of Maui's working class have become do-it-yourself first responders and cul-de-sac commanders. With everything from U-Haul trucks to borrowed boats to dugout canoes, hundreds of lifeguards, carpenters, and bartenders have set up and stocked nearly a dozen pop-up relief centers around the scorched earth of Lahainai. Most without the help of anyone in uniform. The outpouring has been so great that it has started a plea for fuel, ice, and diapers, has turned into a request for shipping containers to store it all. But between the disappointing official response, tourists have went snorkeling during the search for bodies, and stories of real estate speculators hounding families in grief,
Oh my
Hawaii's
god.
famous aloha spirit is being strained. So this is what I'm going to have a real strong opinion on.
Okay.
Look around. Nioki Nahai said on Sunday as he nodded at the
Yeah.
impromptu encampment feeding a small crowd with organized efficiency at Pokaha Beach Park, questioning why there were no officials lending their support. They don't give a shit about us.
Hmm.
Uh, Alika Pineka or Pineku chimed in the home of the self-employed contractor and mechanic was spared from the flames. But after giving it up to displaced family with an infant, he's been sleeping on a cot next to neighbors and strangers in one of the group's community called pods. The
They're
community calls pods.
the pod people, man.
So I wanna sort of cover this for a few reasons. This
Yeah.
article goes over a bunch of stuff, and a lot of this is really bad stuff. It's really depressing to see these
Yeah.
fires happen, and then that is true. All of
Yeah.
these things are true, but that's not really what I'm taking an issue with. I'm
Mhm.
taking an issue with some of the public outpour I've seen from Hawaii,
Yeah.
which is parroting this concept of we need the feds to come in and give us help. We can't handle this ourselves. Why are we being left to handle this ourselves?
Mm.
Deal with it for us. And that is an opinion that's being parroted by a lot of organizations within Hawaii, right? You've got these
Yeah.
charity organizations that pop up around these things. You've got everybody going, well, we need FEMA, we need this, we need that.
Yeah.
We can talk about the cause of these fires. Everybody's talking about conspiracy theories. They're talking about the fact that there might be direct energy weapons and things like that. I'm fine with entertaining those things. Fully okay with entertaining that stuff. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I know that wildfires happen because of the state that I live in. Right,
Yeah.
Alaska is a giant campsite, and so there's constantly fires that break out that get out of hand.
Mhm.
You've got 99% of the state being uninhabited. So when lightning strikes happen, things like that go on. There's no one to put it out. It just
Oh,
sort of burns.
it's global warming, man.
Right,
We
right,
need to
right.
just lock down everything.
And so when I see these fires happen and you start looking at what causes them,
Mm.
most of the time, and same in Hawaii's case, this is probably what happened. A small fire started in an area with high vegetation rates. It
Yeah.
spreads very fast. It gets
Mm.
out of hand, and it takes over a
Yeah.
large area of,
Yeah.
and covers a lot of ground. If you don't upkeep your state and you don't keep these homes built properly, and when you're on an island especially, you're at in a bad position for fires to take place. So typically you want to be very prepared for those things. Doesn't appear like that has taken place. And I can say when my family was there, my mom lived in Hawaii up until she was 18. My dad spent a lot of time in Hawaii before they got married. And it was always happening. There were constantly big fires going on. There were constantly, because you have lava, right? And lava is hot. And so
Yeah.
when lava touches things, it catches them on fire. And
Mhm.
so that causes fires a lot. And I mean, on top of that, you have constantly that lava covering new portions of beaches and wiping them off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of how it works there. But you also have, and I have to say this as somebody in Alaska, who a lot of people from Hawaii and Samoa come over here. The Samoans live over here a lot. There's just high population,
Yeah.
and so there's some of the most like racist people towards white people I've ever met in my life. Like it's just they are like, and I don't have any problem saying that. And
You
so
said racist. I was like, hell yeah. But then you said against white people. I was like, fuck
oh
them.
no, they like my. I mean, I had family who went to school in Hawaii. Like, so it's like this. It's not a good place to be in that environment if you are white. Like, it's just not. Uh,
Listen, man.
and
Some Samoans are fucking fat and they play ukulele. So who wants to be a fat ukulele player?
okay, well, Toad, I'm
Fuck
sorry.
those people. They die young. Those fat fucks.
Oh god. There's a whole group of people who might watch this who don't have you on Twitter who will have no idea what you're referencing, which is my favorite part.
Follow me on Twitter and you'll figure it out.
Those are some of those are low key some of my favorite things you post because I love music. That's like a big. I love like I when I travel. That's always what I'm doing is trying to find people to go see perform and stuff. And I like stand up and music is like my interest outside of politics. So it's cool seeing people on Twitter making stuff like that. It's neat.
Oh, thanks.
Uh,
I'm just kind of fucking around.
mm, when I was young, we used to have there's a band here in Alaska called Blackwater Railroad, and they started in the town that I live in now, and now they've like gone to Hawaii and shit and done like tours and things, but before they were like a smaller group and they used to do like these music get-togethers with a bunch of the younger people in the town that I lived in, and
What
so
kind of
that was
band are
like
they?
um it's sort of like folky country stuff, not typically what I'm into now, but it was just sort of my introduction into that. And I still love like old school country music and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Outlaw country, like you have it in your intro
yeah,
music. Yeah.
yeah. The new stuff sucks, but I like the old stuff.
Except for that new song
That
that
news,
blew
yeah.
up. Yeah.
That
Rich Men
Richmond
North of
North.
Richmond. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing blew up, and I had that guy has like a second YouTube channel where he's uploading like just little clips of his vlogs and things,
Mm.
and him just talking about how he got into music and stuff was actually pretty interesting.
Might have to check it out.
It's been interesting with music and country stuff. There just really hasn't been anything good in like 10, 20 years, and so at least not in the mainstream really. And so seeing
Right.
this guy get like that blow up to me was like, oh shit, this has a nice sound to it. Like it reminded me of a lot of older stuff. So
Yeah, and like
uh,
some people like think it's an op or something. I really don't think so because of
mhm.
the way that some of the like corporate press are reacting to it and stuff like that, and they're very negative towards it. And Reason magazine was shitting on it. I'm like, this
Dude,
is
that article was
ridiculous.
insane.
Like, I think that he like legitimately actually went viral because
I
just
did see this though.
he just hit it just right. Oh yeah, he has a base conspiracy playlist. I did see that. Yeah, the
He
dancing
had a
playlist.
bunch of
He's
Patrick
based,
Bet
man.
David clips in there and
Yeah.
stuff, and I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, like I really don't think it's an op. I think he just kind of hit it just right where that song, like he just had like the right
So in his thing,
yeah.
his little video, he talks about how he kind of got to where he was. He mentions that this was like the first song that because he had been writing for a while and recording some
Yeah.
of the stuff, sort of releasing it, but not really with good quality. And
Yeah.
so he said exactly what it was. He went to a local radio station. They
Yeah.
agreed to sort of play this song. That's why it's not on his channel. It's on a radio
Right.
station's channel.
Right. I knew exactly, yeah, that's what it was. Like,
Right.
'cause he has a
And so
channel,
he just
he's
got the
yeah.
right promotion. He was able to drum up some people to support him and got it
Yeah.
out there to the right channels and it spread.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's,
everybody thinks everything's a fucking psyop. And I'm somebody who like
yeah.
lives in a state that's a psyop.
Yeah.
Like everything
Alaska's
around
not
us
even
is,
real, so yeah.
it's like we have HARP. Like we
Yeah.
have in a giant facility that everybody talks about being this secretive place. It's like, yeah, we have 20 of those. Like, so
Yeah.
I don't like some of it's real, some of it's horse shit, but that's just how it works. Like,
Yeah. Hawaii's not real either, by the way. And my take on that basically is like FEMA's not going to do anything. Like the government's not going to be able to fix that problem. And maybe I don't care if it gets fixed or not. If Hawaii becomes no longer a state and we drop their 2 senators out of the Senate, I don't give a fucking shit. Hawaii's a progressive state. Fuck it.
so I'm actively
Let's
somebody who wants Alaskan independence. If
49
people
states,
said,
man.
yeah, if people came to us and said, Alaska and Hawaii are pretty separated from the rest of the US, we've decided that we're going to let you guys just become territories again, I'd be on board in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Fuck
Yeah.
off. Get out of here. Like, we're
There you
building a
go.
wall.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no more Canadians.
Yeah, if Alaska seceded, I might actually go there. And I think part of the reason why Hawaii is having such issues with the fires, or that they did as Canada did, I'm assuming that this might be the case. They decided to make their firefighting forces more gender equal and have too many female firefighters who don't know what they're doing. I think that's what's going on. Hawaii's too
Jose
progressive, man. What's up,
stopped by
Jose?
to say I've never seen Alaska, so it definitely doesn't exist.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I made that Vogler documentary thing that I did, and I'm gonna be going to the Alaskan Independence Party like convention because one of the people watched that documentary and sort of reached out and wanted to talk to me and stuff, and like that whole concept of like these legal arguments around statehood and stuff fascinates me because none of it was ever really put to bed. Like the government just went, we're just not going to talk about this. And it's like,
Mm,
well, I mean, it happened.
yeah.
And for Alaska, it was like 1958, 59. People don't realize like we've only been a state for like 75 years.
When it
It's like
became a
not that
state,
long.
yeah,
Yeah.
1959, I think.
I
Yeah,
think 59 is when it was actually admitted, but the first votes and the thing was put through in 58. So
yeah, and the U.S. Purchased the territory in the 1860s because it was Lincoln's Secretary of State Seward
William
did
H.
it.
Seward, and I live in
Yeah.
a town called Seward, which is
Seward's
named after
Folly.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they branded it Seward's Folly. They said it was a massive mistake, and then in 1908, when they struck oil, they were like, "Well, maybe not." And then
Yeah, oil,
and then
yeah.
in the late
There
1800s,
was a
they struck
gold
gold.
rush too, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, everybody says this is the sort of weird history, right, about the gold rush. Is everybody assumes there was this massive gold rush that produced all this gold, but that isn't actually the case. What really happened is gold was discovered in an area. A bunch of people rushed up to get that gold. Only a very small portion of the people actually collected the gold, and then everybody else just arrived and made their money off of the people arriving. So it became sort of this weird system because you had to keep in mind the state is gigantic. So when people
Yeah.
go, well, there was a gold rush, it's like, well, what is a gold rush when there's a million gold deposits in the state? Like that's not really a thing, because really what should have happened is miners would have been allowed to slowly move further and further inward to the state, and eventually they would have just kept finding gold as they went. But by the 50s, the government said no more gold, and so all the mines were blown shut, and gold production just sort of stopped here.
You got a lot of miners in your state there. Jeffrey Epstein's paradise, the state of Alaska.
So funny story about that. I'm writing about that right now.
Whoa,
because this is a story most people have not touched, because I don't think it's actually dots have been connected yet. But the person who was the owner of the Alaska Daily News, which is the largest newspaper, massive media conglomerate in the state, was childhood best friends with Ghislaine Maxwell, and was like meeting with her to go to native conventions here in the state of Alaska and traveling around Alaska with her. Keep in mind, in Alaska, you also have a native population, which, much like other native populations, has a lot of young female women who go missing. Like, that's just the stats.
Yeah.
And so I've sort of been like, I'm definitely taking an eyebrow-raising look at what I can get a hold of in that regard, because I'm like, seems to be more connections here than people have talked about in the past. And it is sort of a perfect place to do that in, which is weird to say, but like, if you wanted to disappear and have that kind of environment, this is 730,000 people in a state twice the size of Texas is a good place to do it.
Yeah, man. Jeffrey Epstein loves getting the child Eskimo kisses.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ.
maybe the native women, because I know this is a thing in Canada as well. Maybe they're all disappearing because the native men murder them at a higher rate.
Well, we're gonna leave that there.
Oh,
but I don't know the stats, but dude, I know a lot of native people from villages, and it's like, so I've heard these stories from younger guys, that are like 19, 20, 22, about like just the absolute debauchery that goes down in these villages with like 800 people in them. And you're just like, they start telling me stories, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like,
that's weird, because I would have thought the opposite, but you're saying that these Indians have no reservations when it comes to these things.
You sure you don't have kids? Because it's a hell of a dad joke.
I have the bod and the jokes. I just need the actual kids.
Are you trying to rise to liberty with the slam dunk? All right.
I think
we're at about an hour 10. So this is typically where I sort of close things out. I know it's sort of late.
They go clubbing, JC.
They go clubbing.
That's right. They club women and seals.
Oh shit. All right. Well, we're gonna close it out there. Go follow Toad on @TowerGangToad on Twitter. Listen to
Yeah.
Tower Gang, all that good shit. You'll see me in the
Yeah.
chats often. I'm always sort of hanging around. And yeah, I'm gonna do some edits here soon. I want to do some clips for Tower Gang. I need to get back on that.
Hell yeah. You can be one of our moils. That's what we call our clip guys.
I think I fit that description probably better than most.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Peace.